What if I told you that the wounds that hurt the most are the ones you can't see? Physical wounds heal and fade, but emotional trauma left imprints that are hard to see and can last a lifetime. The scariest part. A lot of folks don't even know they're going through it until years later. Today we're going to look at every kind of emotional abuse in depth. I promise that by the end of this video you'll never see toxic relationships the same way again. But before we get started, I need you to know something very important. Emotional abuse isn't just name-calling or yelling at each other. It often looks like love, care, or even protection. The person who hurts you doesn't wear a sign that says, "I'm going to hurt you." Instead, they progressively eat away at your reality until you start to doubt your own thoughts and feelings. Type 1. Gaslighting, the thief of reality. Let's talk about gaslighting first, which is the most well-known type of emotional abuse. But this is what most people get wrong. Someone disagreeing with you or remembering things differently is not gaslighting. Gaslighting is a way of making you question what you see and hear in a consistent way. Even when you know for sure what happened, the gaslighter will say things like, "That never happened," "You're being too sensitive," or "You're remembering it wrong." They'll relocate your stuff and then act like they don't know where it is. They'll promise you things and then say they never did. The worst part, they say this with so much conviction that you start to believe them. Your mind becomes your own greatest enemy, always making you doubt what's genuine and what's not. This isn't forgetting or not understanding. This is a planned way to mess with your mind so that you depend on their interpretation of reality. Type 2. The silent treatment. The relational Cold War. This is something that people don't talk about enough. Being quiet can be just as violent as yelling. People who give you the quiet treatment aren't just giving you time or space to cool off. It's a planned punishment that makes you feel like you don't matter, are rejected, and are invisible. When someone gives you the quiet treatment, they are basically telling you that you don't matter to them right now. They won't respond to your texts, won't acknowledge that you're there, or will act if you're not even there. The worst part is, they'll often do this without telling you what you did wrong, so you'll have to find out how to remedy something you don't understand. This kind of abuse is especially painful because it brings out our deepest dread of being left alone. People are social beings. To stay alive, we need to connect with others. It feels like emotional famine when someone takes away that connection as punishment. Type 3. Manipulation of emotions, the game of the puppet master. People who play with your feelings are great at chess. You don't even know you're on the board. They exploit your feelings, fears, and affection for them against you. They know exactly how to achieve the response they want. One typical way to get what you want is to make someone feel guilty. They'll say things like, "After everything I've done for you," or "I guess I'm just a bad person." They make you feel like you have to take care of their feelings, but they never take care of yours. Love bombing and then pulling away is another way to control someone. They'll give you too much love presence and attention, making you feel like you're the most important person in the world. Then just as you start to like this treatment, they stop, leaving you bewildered and wanting that feeling back. The manipulator makes you feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster, always seeking to win their approval, not knowing that the game is rigged from the start. Type 4. Verbal degradation. Death by 1,000 cuts. Words have a lot of power, more than we usually think. Verbal abuse is more than just name-calling and insults that are easy to see. It's about how well-picked words and phrases may slowly and steadily lower your self-esteem. The abuser could pretend to be joking when they say harsh things and then remark, "I was just kidding," when you get offended. They'll make fun of how you look, how smart you are, or how good you are at things in ways that seem almost casual yet hurt you for a long time. They can remark things like, "Your sister would never act this way," which would make you look bad in comparison to others. Or "My ex was much better at this." These comparisons establish seeds of not being good enough that sprout over time. Verbal abuse is so harmful because it generally happens slowly. The first insult could stun you, but by the 100th you don't care anymore. Or even worse, you believe it. Type 5. Isolation, building invisible prisons. Cutting someone off from their support system is one of the best methods to control them. Emotional abusers are good at making people feel alone, but they do it in a smart way. They don't normally tell you that you can't see your buddies anymore. Instead, they make it hard, awkward, or appear irrational for you to keep up with other connections. They can cause trouble every time you make arrangements with friends, or they might be quiet and moody when you get home from a party. They'll talk bad about your family and friends, making you mistrust their loyalty or motives. Over time, you start to make reasons not to visit people, cancel plans to avoid controversy, or just not talk about your relationships to keep the peace. Your world has reduced to just you and the abuser, which is exactly what they want. You can't perceive the relationship clearly without other people's points of view. Your friends and family are like mirrors that show you how valuable you are and what is real. You only see the abuser's warped view of who you are when those mirrors are taken away. Type 6. Control of money. The golden handcuffs. Money means freedom and safety in our society, which is why financial abuse works so well. If the abuser has made it impossible for you to live without them, they don't need to physically hold you back. This could mean stopping you from working, messing up job interviews, or making things so chaotic that it's hard to keep a job. They might be in charge of all the bank accounts, credit cards, and money decisions. Like giving you money like you're a kid. Some people who abuse money are more sneaky. They can tell you to quit your job so you can focus on the relationship, or they might take out loans in your name without your knowledge. They make you dependent on them financially, which makes it hard to leave. It's apparent what the message is: you need me to live. This kind of control is especially bad since it hurts not just your mental health, but also your capacity to meet your fundamental physical demands. Type 7. Threats and intimidation. The fearful shadow. Not all threats are spoken. Sometimes the most powerful way to scare someone is to not say anything at all. During fights, the abuser could hit walls, hurl things, or get in your face. They are careful not to hit you because it would leave proof. But they make it clear that they could. If you leave, they can threaten to hurt themselves or the people or pets you care about. These threats don't have to be clear to work. Sometimes a glance, a gesture, or something that happened in the past is all it takes to make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. The idea is to make people afraid so that you always have to watch what you do to keep them from getting angry. You become very aware of their emotions and change your behavior based on what you see. Type 8. Keeping your feelings to yourself. The lack of love. You shouldn't have to do good things to get love, affection, and emotional support. But that's how people who keep back their feelings work. They manipulate you by making you feel like you need to connect with them. When you upset them, they cut off not only communication, but also all warmth and affection. No hugs, no kind words, and no emotional support when you need it the most. They get chilly and distant, making you feel like you're living with someone you don't know. Withholding typically includes not being physically close to each other. They can turn down your attempts to connect with them or make you feel undesired and unwelcome. This rejection hurts a lot because it goes after your most basic need to be liked and accepted. Type 9. Projection and shifting blame. The Hall of Mirrors. When the abuser always blames you for their conduct, it can be quite confusing. They never admit to what they did wrong. Instead, they blame you for everything. They might cheat on you and then say it's your fault for not meeting their wants. They can get angry and say you made them do it. They accuse you of being manipulative, selfish, or aggressive because they see such things in themselves. This continual blaming serves two aims. It stops them from having to deal with their own flaws and keeps you from dealing with their conduct by keeping you focused on protecting yourself. Type 10. Denial and minimization, the removal of your experience. When you eventually get the nerve to talk about the abuse, the abuser often tries to downplay or even deny what happened. They will remark things like, "You're overreacting," "It wasn't that bad," or "You're too sensitive." They might admit that something happened, but they might not think it's really important. "I was having a horrible day," or maybe everyone fights sometimes. Even if your pain is real and valid, they make you feel like you're making a huge deal out of nothing. This downplaying is especially bad, since it makes you doubt your own feelings and experiences. You start to think that you could be overreacting. It might not have been that horrible. It could be that you're the problem. Let's talk about the scars that you can't see. The problem with emotional abuse is that it doesn't leave bruises that you can see in pictures or broken bones that show up on X-rays. The damage is within mental and generally ignored by others who don't get it. But don't get me wrong. Emotional abuse is genuine abuse, and it may hurt just as much as physical violence. If any of these descriptions seem like you or your relationship, please know that what you went through is real. You aren't insane, you aren't overreacting, and you aren't the only one. Recognizing what's going on is the first step on the road to healing. Understanding these patterns is the first step toward taking back your life. Knowledge is power. Keep in mind that strong relationships are based on respect for each other, open communication, and helping each other grow and become more independent. Love should make you feel more like yourself, not less. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to get more videos about recovery and healing. Your help is incredibly important and helps get this information to the people who need it most. And here's something I want to know. Which of these kinds of emotional abuse do you think is the hardest to see when you're going through it? Or maybe you have a tale about how you eventually figured out what was going on in your life. Please leave your opinions in the comments below. Someone else who is still trying to figure things out might be able to use what you've been through. You might want to watch my last video about 8 questions trauma survivors are too scared to ask if you found this one helpful. It gets into the hard questions that keep you up at night, but that you don't want to say out loud. A lot of you have informed me that it made you feel less alone on your path to healing. Remember that your recovery, your narrative, and you matter until we meet again.